A Leung Chun-ying pledge on the MPF offsetting mechanism. Subcontractor jailed in landmark bid rigging case. And the US Congress overrides Barack Obama's veto of 9/11 bill.
Good evening. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying has promised to resolve the controversy involving the MPF offsetting mechanism before the end of his current term of office next year. The long-running dispute pits workers against employers. Adam Hsu has our top story.
The Federation of Trade Unions says over the past 15 years, bosses have shortchanged their staff some $29.2 billion in severance and long service payments because of the MPF offsetting mechanism. Last year alone, the amount topped $3.3 billion. The mechanism allows employers to use their portion of MPF contributions to offer money due an employee. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying promised to lower the proportion of withdrawals by employers in his election manifesto when he ran in 2012. Now, with less than a year left in his current term, the Federation is pressing the CE to honor his election promise. After a meeting with the CE this morning, the FTU said Leung seems finally ready to act, agreeing that the offsetting arrangement has eaten into employees' retirement protection.
We can see the determination of the chief executive this morning as he promised to meet with us again in a very short time. I think he will have some plans in his mind as how to proceed with this cancellation. And what we can do is to give him more feasible and concrete proposals and work urge the government to do this to fulfill his promise within his term of office.
But Mac didn't mention what those proposals are. One idea to win over the employers is for the government to set aside a fund to help them shoulder the extra cost. But catering sector lawmaker Tommy Chung said that would only waste public money and encourage people to change jobs frequently. In response, the Chief Executive's office said Leung will make utmost efforts to address the offsetting scheme within the current term of this administration. The Federation refused to speculate on whether the CE's promise was made with a possible re-election bid in mind, but it did say it would get behind a candidate that focused on labour issues. Adam Hsu, TVB News.
A subcontractor was today sentenced to 35 months in jail for his role in bid rigging plots at two private residential estates in Sha Tin. The bribes involved exceeded $40 million. Elmi Long reports.
$260 million. That's how much residents at Garden Vista were quoted for renovation works at the private estate in Sha Tin. The court heard that between 2010 and 2014, the subcontractor who conspired to rig the consultancy contract and renovation tender for others tried to bribe the chairman of the development's incorporated owners and executives at a property management firm. Such bribes amounted to nearly $44 million. From 2005 to 2007, that same subcontractor also offered $600,000 to a renovation subcommittee member at Ravana Garden to help other parties secure contracts. Yao Shui-tin earlier pleaded guilty to 4 counts of conspiracy to offer an advantage to an agent. In sentencing, District Court Judge Josiah Lam said the 58-year-old committed serious offences that harmed flat owners' interests. Although the defendants eventually reported the case to the ICAC himself, it was not to seek justice, but to apply pressure on other parties to settle outstanding payments. Taking into account his guilty plea and cooperation with the authorities, the subcontractor was sentenced to 35 months in prison. The defendant has also been ordered to repay the $250,000 he pocketed to the owners' corporation of both housing estates. The judge further pointed out the government's good intentions in promoting building maintenance works. But he said the lack of supervision allows criminals to take advantage of the system. Setting up a statutory body, he said, may help homeowners.
If there is a public body to monitor the situation and to investigate the bid-rigging activities of Hong Kong, which this can really help us to combat the bid-rigging syndicates that can safeguard the interests of the property owners.
Today's verdict, Lam added, is a small victory. Elmi Long, TVB News.
On the mainland, rescue operations are underway in Zhejiang province south of Shanghai after rain-saturated hillsides collapsed onto villages below. So far, firefighters and police have rescued 13 people, but more than 24 are still missing. The landslides were triggered by the torrential rains brought by Typhoon Meggy, which lashed southeastern China yesterday. Rescue crews, accompanied by sniffer dogs, are scurrying through piles of mud and rock in the mountainous region. At least one woman has been confirmed dead.
Turning overseas, the U.S. Congress has overwhelmingly rejected President Barack Obama's veto of legislation, the kind of legislation that would allow relatives of the victims of the 9/11 attacks to sue the government of Saudi Arabia. The vote is a blow to Obama as well as Saudi Arabia, one of America's strongest allies in the Arab world. James Aiken reports.
During his nearly 2 terms in office, Obama has never had a veto overridden by Congress.
The bill is passed.
But in a resounding rebuke, the House of Representatives voted 348 to 77 against the veto, hours after the Senate rejected it 97 to 1. The results mean the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, or JASTA, will become law. On the Senate floor, before the vote, lawmakers argued that victims' families deserve their day in court.
There is mounting evidence that the Saudi government, or at least organizations and operatives within the Saudi government, aided and abetted one of the most massive crimes in the United States. In our system, the truth behind those facts deserves to be presented in court.
15 of the 19 hijackers in the 9/11 attacks were Saudi nationals. Some of them were said to have received support from Saudi officials, allegations that Riyadh denies. The legislation easily passed the House and Senate earlier this year. The victims' families have received more than $7 billion, but now they'll have the right to sue in U.S. court for any role that elements of the Saudi government may have played in the 2001 attacks. Obama argued the bill could backfire by exposing the U.S. government, officials, troops, and companies to lawsuits from other countries. Top officials agree, adding JASTA has grave implications for national security. The European Union and other U.S. allies also opposed the bill. Several senators who did vote for the bill admit it could open a legal Pandora's box.
I do so understanding that there could be, in fact, unintended consequences that work against our national interest. And with a determination, should that occur, to work with others within this body to try to overcome that.
Family members of the victims call the legislation a triumph that may finally reveal more about who was truly behind the attacks. James Aiken, TVB News.
Reaction is pouring in to an international criminal probe which determined that a Malaysian passenger jet that crashed in Ukraine 2 years ago was brought down by a missile fired by a Russian launcher from rebel-held territory. Ukraine said the report gives solid proof of a Russian role in the tragedy, while Moscow dismissed it as a biased and politically motivated. Alan Buckner reports.
Flight MH17, flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, was blown out of the sky on July 17, 2014, over eastern Ukraine amid fierce fighting between Ukrainian troops and Russian-backed separatists. All 298 people aboard were killed. The joint investigation team, led by prosecutors and police from the Netherlands, made its preliminary findings public after interviewing more than 200 witnesses, listening to 150,000 intercepted phone calls, examining 500,000 photos and video, consulting radar and satellite images, and sifting through the wreckage.
Vanuit een gebied van 320 vierkante kilometer.
Wilbert Paulison, who heads the probe, said they've concluded that the jet was shot down by a missile fired from a Buk launcher from farmland in rebel-held territory. He said the launcher was brought in from Russian territory, then subsequently returned to the Russian Federation. In Kiev, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said this provides firm evidence of who carries responsibility for what he called a terrorist attack. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova accused the probe of relying on Ukrainian evidence and called the findings biased and politically motivated. A spokesman for United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon urged investigators to continue the probe to find the individuals responsible.
We believe that the final conclusion of the criminal investigation, together with those of the technical investigation led by the Dutch Safety Board that identified the cause of the crash, will be crucial in bringing the perpetrators to justice.
Alan Bookniet, TVB News.
OPEC nations reached a preliminary agreement yesterday, an agreement to curb oil production for the first time since the global financial crisis 8 years ago. The aim is to reduce a global glut of crude that has depressed oil prices for more than 2 years. It also weakened the economies of oil-producing nations. The deal was reached after several hours of talks in Algiers, but output levels must still be finalized at an OPEC meeting in Vienna in November. The agreement comes despite a long-running dispute between regional rivals Iran and Saudi Arabia. Iran had been hesitant to cut production as it tries to restore its oil industry since emerging from international sanctions over its nuclear program. Still ahead in our newscast. Woman dies after being hit by a bus in Chimsa Choi. U.S. teenager accused of killing his father and then opening fire at an elementary school. And a baby born with DNA from 3 people.
What do your teeth say about you?
Do you reckon she's been to university?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think she's somebody who looks after herself?
No.
And which dental products actually work? Tonight, the truth about your teeth. At 9:35 on Pearl's Wellbeing. Sales of coloring books aimed at adults grew over 1,000% in the US from 2014 to 2015. Is the trend catching on here in Hong Kong? Also on Money Magazine, the ivory trade in Hong Kong will be banned outright by 2021. Friday night at 8 on Pearl.
DPM sensor accurately detects your body pressure distribution, giving you a fully customized point-to-point mattress. Revolutionizing sleep.
DPM, more than sleep.
It was big, it was exciting. This is exactly what we're looking for.
The 10th year celebration of incredible talent, drive, and determination.
I have to say, that was pretty spectacular.
Saturday and Sunday, Nature's Bounty presents America's Got Talent, Season 10, at 8:30 on Pearl. Bear braves the freezing Arctic cold of Scotland and gets friendly with reindeer on the way to climbing the highest mountain in the UK.
This bit's horrible.
Monday, Britain's biggest adventures with Bear Grylls. The last episode at 9:35 on Pearl.
Welcome back to TVB News. A woman was killed in Chimsa Choi this morning after a double-decker bus mounted the pavement and knocked her down. As Caleb Long reports, the bus driver has been arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving causing death.
Tragedy struck at around 6 a.m. at the intersection of Nathan Road and Haiphong Road. Police say a 26-year-old pedestrian was waiting to cross the road when a Kowloon motor bus double-decker went out of control. It smashed into some railings and mounted the pavement near Tsim Sha Tsui MTR exit A1. The woman was trapped under the bus, and it took firefighters about half an hour to free her. She was rushed to Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where she was later certified dead. The 40-year-old bus driver said he felt unwell and was also sent to Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Police say he might have lost consciousness when the incident occurred. As part of their probe, officers will look into the driver's health, but initial investigations show he was not suffering from any illnesses. The investigation will also determine if the bus had any mechanical problems or if the driver's view was obstructed at the time of the accident. KMB Staff Union today declined to comment on the incident or the health of its staff, but the union has requested that the bus firm consider improving its policy on free medical checkups for drivers. Currently, all drivers are required to pass a detailed medical examination before joining the company. Drivers aged 50 or above receive annual health checkups and heart exams once every 3 years. The union hopes KMB will provide annual checkups for other drivers as well. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Private hospitals are considering giving patients an estimate of their medical bills before admitting them. But as Winna Wong reports, patients groups are worried this will not help resolve disputes over charges.
The announcement was made by Secretary for Food and Health, Ko Wing-Mam, this afternoon. Starting next month, the government, together with the Private Hospitals Association, will roll out a pilot program in which doctors from private hospitals will give patients an estimate of their bill before they are admitted. But taking part in the pilot program isn't mandatory. Ko said today the city's 11 private hospitals can take part on a voluntary basis.
This pilot program enables patients to obtain more comprehensive information on hospital fees, which will assist them to make informed choices and financial preparation when using private medical services.
The association has come up with a price reference chart for 24 common non-emergency procedures. Authorities today stressed it should serve as reference only and that the chart should not be treated as a price quote. Private hospital doctors have warned unexpected factors could change the final price tag. Honorary Secretary of the Medical Association, David Lam, said patients may develop complications from surgery, which may require more treatment or medication. And patients have the same worry, too. Spokesman for the Patients' Rights Association, Tim Pang, wants to know how things will be handled if disputes emerge because of huge differences between the estimate and final cost. Winna Wong, TVB News.
The major pro-establishment parties say they're leaning towards electing House Committee Chairman Andrew Leung as the next LegCo president. The parties held a meeting today on who should succeed Chung Yok-sing. Leung said he would meet with the pro-establishment parties next week to seek their support. The other hopefuls include Paul Tse and Michael Tin. Meanwhile, commercial sector lawmaker Martin Liao has been chosen as the convener of the pro-establishment camp, and Gary Chan of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong is his deputy.
To more overseas news, a teenage boy in South Carolina has been accused of killing his father at home and then carrying out a shooting rampage at a nearby elementary school. Two boys and a teacher were shot and wounded before an off-duty firefighter stopped the suspect.
It was about 2 in the afternoon yesterday when witnesses say the 14-year-old boy opened fire with a handgun in front of Townville Elementary School. He shot 2 male students and a female teacher. But he never got into the school, thanks to the quick thinking of an off-duty firefighter, Jamie Brock, who stopped him by tackling him. Police immediately swarmed the school the moment an active shooter alert went out. Officers took positions on the school's roof, while others secured the perimeter of the building. Students were quickly evacuated on buses accompanied by officers. Police say minutes before the elementary school shooting, the suspect gunned down his 47-year-old father, Jeffrey Osborne, at their home. The coroner explains it was the shooter's grandparents who discovered their son had been shot to death.
She got a phone call from her grandson about 1:44, and he was crying and upset, and they couldn't understand what was going on. So they went to his home, which they lived just 100 yards away, to see what was going on. When they go into the house, they find their son has been shot, and their grandson's not there.
A neighbor lauded the victim as a great person who worked hard for his family.
Jeff, he was an excellent guy, real excellent. I mean, like I say, he never done nothing but work and went back home.
At a press conference, investigators say they're questioning the shooter to determine a motive and if those shot were targeted. Of the 3 survivors, 1 boy shot in the leg is in critical condition, but a teacher shot in the shoulder and another boy shot in the foot are said to be doing fine.
To Mexico City, where scientists are hailing the first baby born from the DNA of 3 people, the mother, the father, and an egg donor. The doctor says the goal of creating a 3-person baby is to save lives. In the first case, the mother carries DNA that could have given her child a neurological disorder that killed 2 of her previous children. The technique involved removing some of the mother's DNA from an egg and leaving the disease-causing DNA behind. The healthy DNA was then slipped into a donor's egg and fertilized to become a 3-person baby. Critics question the technique's safety. They say children would have to be tracked for decades to ensure they remain healthy. Religious-minded critics call it unethical, saying no one should mess with what God intended.
Todo va a seguir muy bien. Sin embargo, eso no es suficiente. Necesitamos la evidencia de que
All right, Tony, what do you have for us today?
Oh, we got some Ryder Cup preview and football. There were wins for Barcelona, Atletico Madrid and Arsenal in the Champions League last night. In Scotland, Celtic and Manchester City played out an entertaining draw with lots of excitement and goals for fans. There were goals galore at Celtic Park last night as Celtic held Manchester City to a draw in the Champions League. The hosts led twice in the first half through Moussa Dembele and an own goal from Raheem Sterling. Fernandinho's strike brought City level for the first time, while Sterling made amends for his own goal with City's second equaliser in the 28th minute. Dembele scored 3 minutes into the second half for Celtic before City levelled for the third time through Nolito. The 3-3 draw was a good comeback for Celtic, who were thrashed 7-0 by Barcelona in their opening game. For City, it was the first time under manager Pep Guardiola that they did not win a match.
It was a fantastic game for the spectators, for everybody. 3-3, we scored 3 goals away, we didn't win. It was tough in the beginning for each part, but the team with an amazing effort, a great effort to recover that situation. Is not easy here in this stadium. On the last 24 games at home, just lost 3.
The pressure that we put Manchester City under, the quality of our play, the goals that we scored, it was a real good level of performance. When you have the Celtic support behind you, it really is like a 12th man. And tonight, the atmosphere was electric. It was an incredible evening for us. And as I said, they really helped us to produce the performance that we did.
Also in Group C, Barcelona ended Borussia Mönchengladbach's long winning run at home with a victory over the Germans. Defender Gerard Piqué scored in the 74th minute to seal a 2-1 win. Spanish success continued in Group D, where Atletico Madrid edged out Bayern Munich 1-0 in a repeat of last season's semi-final showdown. Well, Team Europe is scrambling to defuse a controversy surrounding one of its players on the eve of the Ryder Cup showdown with the USA. Danny Willard had to apologise for an article by his brother in which his brother called American fans a baying mob of imbeciles.
It's obviously not the thoughts of myself and of the team and of Captain Darren. I spoke to him on the phone after I was made aware of what was said and what's been going on. And I said to Pete that, you know, I was obviously disappointed in what was said and what was written about the American fans.
And that's a wrap of our news.
Thanks for watching. Good night.
Can trouble in Jordan pose a danger to the entire world?